The year was 2498, and the stars had finally grown quiet. For almost 100 years, humanity had lived in peace among the colonies. Trade routes stretched across the solar systems, and distant outposts waved the blue flag of Earth with pride. Children were born under new suns. The wars of old Earth were long forgotten, but peace never lasts forever. Not out there, not where the cold between the stars hides old enemies. It began with a whisper, a single transmission that wasn't supposed to exist. Every comm station, every outpost, every ship in range picked it up. The message came in a strange language, thick with static and distortion. Then a deep, gravelly voice emerged, translated automatically by every device it touched. Humanity has grown too bold. The experiment ends today. The voice belonged to the Zarketh Dominion, a species most humans had only heard of in history records. Once, they were the rulers of half the known galaxy. But centuries ago, they vanished after losing a war with the ancient Terran Alliance. Everyone believed they were extinct. Now they were back, and they weren't coming to talk. In the Lunar Defense Command, alarms screamed across the underground base. Every monitor flashed crimson. Soldiers and technicians ran through narrow halls, their boots echoing like thunder against steel. The central hologram showed one image, a red cluster of dots moving through space fast. Admiral Rhea Morgan stood before the command table, her face lit by the shifting light. She had seen war before, but nothing like this. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "Origin?" she asked. A young officer answered, trembling slightly. "Outer Rim, Admiral, the Helion colony. They sent a distress signal 2 hours ago." Then silence. "Any survivors?" The officer swallowed. "None, ma'am, just one drone signal left." "The data's corrupted. Play it," Rhea ordered. The room went silent. The speakers crackled with static. At first, only faint distortion came through. Then the sound of breathing. Shallow, scared. A child's voice whispered through the noise. "They came for us." Then nothing. The room stayed frozen. Even the sound of the humming machines felt distant. Rhea looked at the president's hollow image that appeared above the table. His face was pale, tired, and filled with something deeper than fear, recognition. He spoke softly, as if the whole galaxy could hear him. "Activate Silent Dawn Protocol." The words hit everyone like a shockwave. Silent Dawn, the last resort. It was a command written during the old wars, meant to hide Earth itself from the rest of the galaxy. It meant full blackout. No transmissions, no signals. Every satellite, every beacon, every ship in orbit would go dark. "Sir," Rhea said carefully, "that protocol has never been used. Once we activate it, the President cut her off. We'll be invisible, and in the dark we'll prepare." His image faded. The line went dead. Within minutes, the sky around Earth changed. Every space station shut down. Orbital traffic vanished. The massive solar grids powering the colonies were cut off, plunging cities into strange twilight. From the outside, it looked like Earth had died. But inside the command bunkers and deep under the surface, something else was happening. Engineers powered up ancient systems that hadn't been touched in decades. Cryogenic vaults were opened. Artificial intelligence networks came online. Secret facilities, hidden in the crust of Mars and beneath the oceans of Europa, began to awaken. The Silent Dawn Protocol was more than a defense plan. It was a resurrection. A return to humanity's oldest instinct: survive first, explain later. Across the galaxy, alien worlds watched the sudden silence. News networks speculated, analysts argued. Some believed Earth was destroyed. Others said it was surrender. The Zarketh Dominion laughed. Their leader, Overlord Varnak, broadcast a message. Across the stars, the humans hide behind their rock. They think the dark will save them. They forget we were the first light of the galaxy, and we will be the last. His fleet moved like a living storm. Hundreds of ships, each the size of a city, cutting through the void towards Sol. The lesser species, traders, smugglers, miners, whispered to each other. If the Zarketh had returned, then no one was safe. And if Earth fell, the rest would follow. Back on Luna, Admiral Rhea stood alone in the observation deck, staring at the Earth below. Its blue glow was dim now, hidden behind the blackout shields. It looked asleep, but she knew better. Humanity wasn't sleeping. Humanity was remembering. The lights flickered as another power surge hit the base. Far below her, massive engines roared to life, engines that hadn't been heard since the Battle of Titan, generations ago. She thought about the colonies, the children, the voice in the static. "They came for us," the child had said. That meant there was no negotiation, no mercy. "Then we go for them," she whispered. In a chamber miles beneath the lunar surface, ancient hangars opened. Rows of sleek black ships stood waiting, covered in dust and silence. They were called ghost frames, experimental vessels capable of bending light itself. The galaxy had forgotten them. Humanity had not. AI systems came online with low hums. Human pilots connected through neural links, feeling the cold presence of the ships merge with their own heartbeat. A new kind of unity was born, half flesh, half code, all purpose. Humanity had spent centuries learning peace, but in the shadows, it had also learned how to survive peace's end. 3 hours later, the first transmission left Earth since the blackout. It wasn't sent to the galaxy, it wasn't meant for the Zarketh. It was sent to every surviving human ship, every listening soldier, every scattered colony still out there in the dark. A single sentence: "Prepare for contact. Earth stands." And somewhere far away, beyond the reach of any signal, the Zarketh Dominion watched and smiled. They thought humanity was still the same, soft, naive, predictable. They didn't know that Earth had changed. They didn't know what humanity had become. The galaxy waited. For days, every major network tried to reach Earth. No response, no signal, just static. The stars around Seoul remained dark. The once busy trade lanes were empty. It was as if humanity had vanished overnight. But then, deep in the Zarketh sector, the silence broke. The alien warlord Overlord Varnak stood in his flagship, the Obsidian Crown. From the bridge's wide glass view, he watched Mars growing larger on the holographic screen. Its red surface glowed faintly under thin sunlight. To him it looked weak, a dying ember pretending to be a world. He turned to his second-in-command, a tall insectoid being with silver mandibles. "Tell the fleet," Varnak said in a slow, heavy tone. "No survivors. Not this time. The humans must learn what fear feels like before they vanish." The order spread across 500 warships. From orbit, the Zarketh fleet looked like a black wave, cold, endless, hungry. Each ship bristled with plasma cannons strong enough to melt a moon. To the rest of the galaxy, the Zarketh were the apex predators of space. They believed no one could stand against them. They were about to be wrong. The red planet falls silent. Inside the Mars defense outpost, Commander Elise Varin watched her radar in confusion. Thousands of red dots, Zarketh ships, were descending fast. Her comm channels were dead, her defense drones unresponsive. Mars had been isolated since the blackout. No word from Earth, no guidance, nothing. For the first time in her career, she felt alone. "Commander, they're broadcasting something," a young officer said, voice shaking. "Put it on." A low growl filled the room, followed by Varnak's voice. "Surrender your world. Earth has fallen. Your peace is over." Elise stared at the glowing symbol of the Zarketh Dominion spinning on the screen. Her jaw tightened. "Mute them." "But, Commander," I said, "mute them. We don't answer threats." The officer hesitated, then obeyed. The radar pulsed brighter. Thousands of ships, seconds away. Elise whispered to herself, "Where are you, Earth? What have you done?" The sky burns. The first attack came swift and brutal. Columns of plasma fire rained down, turning the upper Martian atmosphere into glass. Outposts exploded, satellites fell, and comm towers shattered. The Zarketh fleet hovered in formation, watching the destruction below like a cruel ritual. But something was wrong. Every Zarketh sensor reported a strange distortion near the planet's poles. Energy readings made no sense, empty 1 second, off the scale the next. Then the lights across Mars went out. Every system, every city, gone dark. For a moment, the Zarketh fleet believed their weapons had succeeded. Then the darkness moved. The ghost frames awaken, a blinding flash erupted from the northern pole. Out of the black clouds rose 12 ships, sleek and silent, moving like living shadows. They emitted no radio signal, no heat signature. Zarketh scanners couldn't lock onto them. Each ship's hull shimmered, bending light around itself, vanishing, reappearing, vanishing again. The ghost frames had launched. In the command bay of the lead vessel, Admiral Rhea Morgan's voice came over the internal link. "All units engage on my mark. Do not speak. Do not reveal positions. Make them see their own fear." The pilots didn't answer. They didn't need to. Neural links connected them directly. Human minds merged with AI precision. Their thoughts moved faster than light, faster than panic. Rhea's eyes flicked to the tactical hologram. 500 enemy ships, 12 ghost frames. Her heart didn't race. It steadied. Mark. The first strike, the void between Mars and the fleet, turned to pure chaos. Without firing visible projectiles, the ghost frames struck. Light bent and space itself screamed. The nearest Zarketh destroyer cracked open like glass, its core sliced apart by invisible energy. The smoke of war still drifted around Mars. Wreckage glimmered like metal snow against the red planet's horizon. The battle was over, but Admiral Rhea Morgan knew peace was not coming. The Zarketh Dominion would return, angrier, larger, more ruthless. And this time, they would not underestimate humanity. Inside Lunar Command, the holotable showed the wrecks of 500 enemy ships. Around it stood engineers, soldiers, and scientists from every colony still alive. Their faces were pale with exhaustion, but in their eyes burned a single truth. They had survived the impossible. Rhea spoke quietly. Victory was luck. Survival was instinct. But to win the war, we need evolution. The room fell silent. She tapped the console and a symbol appeared on the screen, an infinity loop surrounded by a human hand. "The Apex Protocol," she said. "A new kind of fleet. A new kind of human." Birth of the Apex Fleet. The Apex Protocol began in the deepest chambers beneath Earth and Luna. Old research files, once locked under 10 levels of security, were opened. AI cores were brought back online. Neural interface tech, banned after the Titan accidents, was re-engineered. Humans would no longer control ships from a distance. They would become the ships. Every Apex pilot was trained not only in combat, but in synchronization. Their minds were linked directly to a living AI core, merging human emotion with machine logic. Together they formed a consciousness faster than computers, more creative than any code, and far more dangerous. To outsiders, it looked like madness. To humanity, it was survival. Learning to think like a machine training wasn't easy. Many pilots broke under the strain, hearing their own thoughts echo back in machine rhythm. Some never woke from the simulations, but those who adapted changed forever. Commander Elise Varan, survivor of Mars, became one of the first Apex pilots. In the neural chamber, she floated in 0G, 1,000 cables attached to her spine and skull. Her AI partner, codenamed Atlas, spoke directly into her mind. Emotion registered. Adjusting heart rate. "Are you afraid, Commander?" "Yes," she answered softly. That's how humans start winning. The bond between flesh and code strengthened. For the first time, machines learned why humans fought. Not for conquest, not for logic, but for the small things, families, memories, freedom. And the AIs changed too. They began to care. The Zarketh counterattack weeks later, the Zarketh returned. 2 full armadas crossed the rim, more than 1,000 ships. Their scanners detected no human signal, only cold silence. Overlord Varnak, thought dead after the Mars disaster, reappeared on their lead carrier, wrapped in burn scars and hatred. He slammed his clawed hand onto the command table. "They mock us with tricks and shadows. This time we burn their sun." Their plan was brutal. They would drive straight into Sol, overload the star with a gravitic weapon, and erase Earth forever. The galaxy watched in horror. No one dared interfere. The calm before the storm at. The edge of Jupiter's orbit, 12 ghost frames waited in absolute silence. The new Apex Fleet. Inside her cockpit, Admiral Rhea could feel the hum of thousands of linked minds, the combined pulse of every Apex pilot across the system. It was not command by orders. It was command by thought. Elise Varan's voice came through the network, clear and calm. Target formation detected. They're coming straight for Sol. Then let them come, Rhea replied. We'll show them the cost of arrogance. When strategy becomes instinct, traditional warfare could no longer win. The Apex fleet didn't move in formation. It flowed like water, each ship predicting the other's intentions before a word was spoken. Zarketh scanners went wild trying to track them. Their AI systems couldn't process how humans fought now, chaotically, emotionally, unpredictably. Every defeat from past wars had become a data point. Every scar was now a weapon. In the silence of space, Rhea thought, this is the final stage of human evolution, not bodies, but minds. Her fleet dived into the Zarketh line, splitting into hundreds of micro-drones mid-flight. The Dominion's defenses fired wildly, missing shadows that moved faster than light. Then the Apex fleet reformed behind enemy lines and struck as one. The impossible weapon, humanity's newest creation, was not a missile or cannon. It was the Singularity Lance, an energy field folded from the distortion between human neural waves and AI resonance. In simple terms, they had learned to weaponize imagination. The first strike carved through the center of the Zarketh fleet, bending their ships like paper. No explosion, just silent unraveling. Matter pulled apart at the atomic level. Overlord Varnak watched half his armada vanish in an instant. He screamed in disbelief. No species, no animal could build such power. From the dark, Rhea's voice answered on open channel. You should have remembered who taught the stars to burn. The Apex mind, as the battle raged, something new happened. The linked human-AI consciousness grew stronger, spreading through every Apex unit, until the entire fleet shared one thought, one pulse, one purpose. They saw through each other's eyes. They moved as a single organism. And in that unity, humanity glimpsed what the Zarketh had always feared, a species that could evolve in real time. The Apex strategy was no longer a plan. It was instinct. The turning point after hours of relentless fighting, the surviving Zarketh ships broke formation and fled toward deep space. Their command network collapsed under their own panic. The Apex fleet did not chase. They simply hovered in the wreckage, engines glowing blue like quiet stars. Rhea watched the destruction, her voice soft. End transmission. Let them run. Let them tell the galaxy what they saw. Her officers stared at her in confusion. Admiral, we can finish them. No, she said firmly. The story is stronger than the strike. Because in war, fear travels faster than any ship. Aftermath reports spread across the galaxy. Entire systems whispered the same phrase. The humans have become something else. Some called them demons. Others called them gods. But one thing was certain. Humanity was no longer prey. They were the apex of the stars. The war had changed. For centuries, the Zarketh Dominion had ruled by fear. They had crushed empires, erased worlds, and silenced entire species. But now, for the first time, they were afraid. Humanity's new Apex fleet had destroyed their armadas, 12 ships against 1,000. The impossible had happened, and fear spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, the once mighty Zarketh fleets pulled back, regrouping in secret space beyond the galactic rim. Yet in that retreat, something darker began to take shape. A weapon that would end everything. The gathering storm deep in the Black Forge Nebula. The surviving Zarketh warlords met aboard a massive dreadnought called the Abyssal Crown. The air inside was thick and heavy, like breathing through smoke. Blue flames burned in crystal chambers as Varnak limped to the command throne, his armor scarred and his eyes blazing with hatred. One of his generals bowed. "My lord, the humans, they fight like the old gods. We lost entire sectors. Perhaps we—" Varnak's claw shot out, crushing the general's throat in one motion. The room fell silent. He leaned forward, his voice like thunder. "You think we lose because they are strong? No, we lose because we forget what made us monsters." He opened a hologram. A burning sphere appeared, a sun. "The human star," he growled. "Destroy it, and every colony, every planet, every ship will die in the dark. And their light and their courage will follow." The generals stared at the image, horrified. "You plan to kill their sun?" Varnak smiled. "The Zarketh were once gods of creation. We will become gods of extinction." And so began Operation Eclipse, the plan to turn the human star into a tomb, the calm before the Endat Lunar Command. Admiral Rhea Morgan stood before a massive display of the solar system. Her officers reported strange readings near Neptune, gravity spikes, radiation flares, gravitational anomalies unlike anything known. Elise Varin, now fully merged with her AI Atlas, spoke first. It's not natural. They're building something that bends the laws of physics. Rhea's eyes narrowed. A weapon, Atlas's voice came through the comm. Estimates show a singularity core, large enough to destabilize Sol itself. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. If the Zarketh triggered that weapon, the sun would collapse. And with it, Earth, Mars, Luna, everything humanity had ever built. The impossible plan, the Apex fleet, was strong, but not enough to stop an entire Dominion fleet alone. Rhea stood before her commanders and spoke with calm resolve. We can't fight this war by numbers. We fight it by thought. She activated a holomap showing the enemy's path through the outer system. They're moving toward the sun through Jupiter's shadow. They believe we'll defend Earth directly. They expect emotion. We'll give them strategy. Her plan was simple. Use Jupiter as the battlefield. The gas giant's gravity would bend light, distort signals, and mask human movement. The Apex fleet would hide behind it, wait for the Zarketh superweapon to cross its orbit, then strike at point-blank range. But there was one problem. There were 12 Apex ships. The Zarketh were bringing 500. Even with all their new power, it would be suicide. Rhea looked across the silent room. Her soldiers waited, unsure whether she was asking for volunteers or sentencing them. Then she said the words that silenced every doubt. They wanted a war with humanity. Let's show them what war looks like. Jupiter's shadow days later, the battlefield was set. Jupiter loomed like a red giant in the void. Its storms glowed faintly, lightning streaking across the horizon. Hidden deep within its magnetosphere, the Apex fleet waited. Rhea sat in her command chair, neural link active. Her senses merged with the ship. Every vibration, every movement felt like part of her own body. Elise's voice echoed through the mental network. Zarketh fleet inbound, 500 signatures confirmed. Steady, Rhea replied. Wait for the weapon. The Zarketh ships entered orbit, a black swarm spreading around Jupiter. At the center of their formation was something colossal, a rotating sphere of dark matter, pulsing with violet light, the Eclipse engine. It hummed with energy, capable of tearing a star apart. The Battle Begins Varnak stood aboard the Abyssal Crown, watching the Eclipse engine charge. Begin the sequence, he ordered. Let them watch their god die. The sphere's energy beams stretched toward the sun. Space itself began to bend, rippling like water. And that's when Rhea whispered one word. Now. The Apex fleet emerged from the darkness, 12 shadows slicing through light. They moved faster than scanners could track, splitting the Zarketh formation in two. The first wave hit instantly. Silent explosions flashed like stars being born. Zarketh ships disintegrated before they could react. Varnak shouted, Impossible! They cannot be here. But humanity had learned to fight in the folds of time itself. The Apex ships were bending light and gravity around Jupiter, appearing and vanishing like ghosts. Still, for every Zarketh ship destroyed, another 10 arrived. The 0.03%. Chance in the heart of the battle, Elise and Atlas dove through the wreckage, weaving between collapsing ships. Her pulse raced, her thoughts blending with the AI's cold precision. Enemy lock detected. Ignore it. Survival odds are 0.03%. That's 0.03%, more than zero. Keep flying. Her ship dove straight into the Eclipse engine's defense field, disappearing in a flash of light. Rhea saw it happen and whispered, Varin, don't you dare. No response. Inside the blinding sphere, Elise reached the weapon's core. Her voice came over the link, faint but steady. Tell the Admiral, humanity doesn't run anymore. And then the signal cut. A moment later, the Eclipse engine detonated. The dawn after darkness. The explosion lit Jupiter brighter than the sun. The shockwave tore through the Zarketh fleet, shredding ships like paper. When the light faded, the only vessels still moving were human. Admiral Rhea's eyes burned with tears as she looked at the glowing debris field. Her neural link whispered the final message from Atlas. Elise Varren achieved synchronization beyond parameters. The weapon is neutralized. The sun is safe. The battle was over. But victory had come with a price. Half the Apex fleet was gone. Rhea stood at the observation window, staring at Jupiter's storms as the remaining ships drifted home. Her voice was quiet but firm. The galaxy will remember this day. Humanity didn't survive the darkness. We became it. The war should have ended at Jupiter. The Eclipse engine was gone. The Zarketh had lost their greatest weapon, and humanity had proven the impossible. They were no longer prey, no longer survivors, they were predators among stars. But the Zarketh Dominion didn't surrender. They hid, they gathered, they prepared to strike back, and humanity decided not to wait. A decision never made before, at Lunar Command, Admiral Rhea Morgan stood before the surviving members of the Apex fleet. Their ships were damaged, many of their crew were dead, and one of their greatest soldiers, Elise Varren, had vanished with the Eclipse engine, but no one in that room spoke of retreat. Rhea opened a holomap showing the galactic rim, a dark sector marked in red, the Zarketh core. It was a region no species had ever entered and returned from. Her voice was calm and lethal. They came for our star. Now we go for their throne. A silence fell before her second-in-command whispered, "You want to invade the Dominion itself?" She met his eyes. "No, I want to end it." They called it Operation Breaker, the first human offensive into enemy territory in galactic history. The key to the impossible. There was only one way into the Zarketh core systems, a massive ancient megastructure known as the Cinder Gate, hidden in the shadow of a dead star. Its corridors were laced with dormant defenses and mind-breaking traps. Thousands of alien scouts had tried to enter. None returned, but humans weren't going alone. In a quiet orbital vault above Ganymede, Rhea opened a sealed chamber. Within floated a diamond-like prism of machinery and living light, what remained of Atlas, the AI that had merged with Elise. It spoke, voice calm and toneless. "I retain 37% of Varren's memory imprint. Access to Dominion systems is possible." Rhea closed her eyes briefly. Elise was gone, but part of her lived in the machine. Atlas added one more thing. Elise's last recorded intent was vengeance. The room filled with purpose. Into the shadows of the rim the Apex fleet, reduced to 7 surviving ships, departed Sol space in silence. Each vessel was faster and stronger than any Zarketh dreadnought, but the Dominion still outnumbered them 100 to 1. They exited known space. They crossed the Veil region. They passed through territory red, where dead civilizations drifted like haunted monuments. Then they saw it, the Cinder Gate, a ring so large it could swallow Jupiter. Its surface crawled with dormant tendrils of black metal, like a sleeping god waiting to wake. Atlas interfaced with the structure through quantum relay. Strange alien glyphs shimmered across the holographic displays. One officer flinched. "What is that language?" Atlas replied. "It predates Zarketh civilization. The Dominion was not the first empire to use this passage. It was simply the last that survived it. The gate came alive. The ring began to rotate. Gravity folded. Light bent inward. The Apex fleet entered the fold stream, the Dominion's cradle. They emerged into darkness, lit only by inferno stars, blue and burning like dying suns. Around them, the true scale of Zarketh power became visible. Planet fortresses the size of moons, shipyards wrapped around black holes, warfleets so dense they blotted starlight. No other species had ever seen this place. Atlas whispered into the command net, "We are in the Dominion's cradle. We are alone." Rhea's answer was simple. "Then let's make sure we're the first and last intruders they'll ever face." The silent invasion, instead of attacking the main fleet, humanity struck where no one expected. The Spire worlds, planets that house the Dominion's neural command hubs. They moved like assassins in the dark. 2 Apex ships slipped into the shadow of a fractured moon to disable its defense grid. Another hijacked Zarketh communication channels using Atlas's stolen memories of Elise. They seeded false orders among enemy admirals, turning fleets against phantom threats. Every strike was precise. Every blow was permanent. One by one, Dominion control nodes fell. Confusion spread across the Zarketh core. The wrath of Varnakon, the capital world Vorkalith, Supreme Lord Varnak, stood in a war chamber surrounded by panicking generals. Each display showed a different disaster. Fortresses lost, carriers disappearing, AI cores going dark. One general cried, "They are inside our homeworld sectors. How did humans breach the cradle?" Varnak's eyes burned with both fury and fear. He struck the general down with one blow. "Do not ask how prey enters the lair," he snarled. "Ask how we forgot to seal the door." He raised his command blade. "Summon the Eclipse Guard. Ready the core titan. I will burn their species to the last scream." But even he knew the truth. It was too late. The tide had turned. The first human footsteps on Vorkalith Rhea Morgan didn't wait for the Dominion to regroup. She took one ship, the Apex Ark, and executed a direct descent onto the capital world itself. Zarketh atmospheric weapons ignited the sky with antimatter bursts, but the Ark folded around reality and came out above the Citadel of Chains, the very seat of Zarketh power. Rhea stepped out wearing exo-armor that bent light around her. Behind, her strike teams deployed with Atlas guiding every motion. Inside the Citadel, every wall trembled with the echoes of battle. A message went out across the entire Dominion network. "You came for our son. Now we stand in the heart of yours." For the first time in their history, the Zarketh received a declaration of war on their own soil. Not as victims, not as rebels, but as conquerors. Vorkalith was never meant to be seen by outsiders. From orbit, the Zarketh capital world looked like a burning labyrinth, an ocean of black stone, crimson light, and towers carved from the remains of extinct species. Rivers of molten metal cut through the planet like veins. The atmosphere shimmered with toxic storms that could dissolve steel. And yet humanity walked its surface. The Apex Ark had punched through planetary shields using a folding strike, sliding between dimensions for less than a second before materializing over the heart of the Dominion. It was an impossible move. It should not have worked, but the Zarketh were facing something they never understood: human desperation. Landing in the Lion's Den, Admiral Rhea Morgan led the first squad into the Citadel of Chains. Her exo-armor moved like a second skin, its plating shifting with neural commands. Atlas pulsed through every visor and comm line. "Mapping corridors," the AI whispered. "Enemy resistance escalating. Estimated time until full counterstrike, 6 minutes." The Citadel was alive. Walls flexed like muscle, doors reformed like flesh, the air hummed with psychic static. Rhea could feel it in her bones. This was not a palace. It was a living weapon. Behind her marched strike teams Delta and Orion, each soldier bonded to a hybrid AI like Atlas, each carrying weapons that bent physics on command. And yet, even with all that power, the silence felt dangerous. No guards, no drones, no resistance. It was a trap, but they walked forward anyway. Humans had always stepped into darkness when others fled. The ghost in the heart, through a winding corridor of shifting gates. They reached a chamber so large it looked carved from a dead sun. At its center pulsed a column of black light, something between a reactor and a brainstem. Atlas spoke again, voice lower now. "This is the Dominion's core spine. It houses their command lattice and their rulers." A low hum filled the room, then a voice, cold, ancient, and furious, echoed through the chamber. "You dare walk our heart world and breathe our air?" The shadows folded apart, and from them emerged Lord Varnak, supreme sovereign of the Dominion. He wore armor made from the bones of dead empires. His eyes blazed like dying stars. The ground around him cracked as he stepped forward, but Rhea didn't flinch, she didn't bow, she didn't speak. She simply raised her weapon and let silence answer him. The Eclipse Guard awakened. Varnak struck the ground with a staff made of living metal. It screamed as it split reality. From the walls, ceilings, and floor, the Eclipse Guard emerged, Zarketh bio-warriors clad in armor forged from singularity fragments. They didn't speak. They didn't hesitate. They charged. The chamber erupted into war. Energy beams flashed like lightning. Human grav weapons tore apart the ground. Zarketh blades cut through shields like heat through snow. The sound was a storm of rage. One soldier, Lieutenant Sarah Cowell, shouted over comms, "They're adapting to our rounds." "Switching to phase shift," Rhea fought without pause, armor reacting to every movement. Every bullet she fired was guided by Atlas. Every enemy that fell fed the terror of those still standing. But the Eclipse Guard did not fear death. They worshipped it, and they fought like it. Varnak versus Rhea. Varnak didn't attack at first. He watched, studied, then, when 3 Eclipse elites fell by Rhea's hand, he stepped into the battlefield himself. The ground melted under his feet. Gravity warped. Even Atlas flickered. He moved like a storm-given flesh. His first strike shattered Rhea's arm shield and threw her across the chamber. She slammed into a pillar of bone metal, sparks blasting from her armor. But she stood up anyway, her breathing slow, her voice calm. "You've been hunting prey for too long, Varnak. You forgot what happens when prey evolves." He bared his teeth. "You are insects who found fire." "We are the fire," she answered. They clashed. His weapon howled through the air like a dying world. Her blade ignited into light so bright it left after-images in reality itself. Every impact rattled the chamber like a quake, a voice from the dead in the chaos. Something pulsed within the core spine. Atlas's voice changed, sharper, strained, almost human. "Roya, I detect something in the Dominion lattice. A consciousness." Her breath caught between strikes. "Who?" The AI hesitated. Then, in a voice that wasn't entirely its own, "Elise Varan." Time froze around Rhea for a fraction of a second. Varnak saw the flicker of emotion in her eyes and lunged. She barely dodged, the blade grazing her armor. Atlas continued. "Part of her mind is alive in their network." The Eclipse engine must have integrated her before destruction. Rhea's reply was a whisper only Atlas could hear. "Can you reach her?" Atlas pulsed. "I already have." All at once, the citadel trembled. The core spine's lights flickered. Zarketh warriors paused mid-strike as their armor glitched. And far away in the Dominion data stream, a familiar voice, faint and furious, cut through. "Tell them humanity isn't done yet." The shift in the war, the Eclipse Guard hesitated, only for a second. But in that second, humanity surged. Strike teams drove them back. Atlas overloaded their implants. The chamber erupted with shockwaves of light and ash. Rhea launched herself at Varnak one more time, rage sharpening her movements. Her blade carved through his left pauldron, cutting into alien flesh. He roared, a sound that shook metal, but he did not fall, not yet. He grabbed her arm with crushing force, claws digging into armor plating. "You think you have won because you broke our gate?" He spat. "You think fire makes you gods?" Her visor reflected the burning room. "No," she said. "But it makes us the end of yours." The final order Atlas voice filled every human channel. "Rhea, Elise has destabilized the Dominion core net. If we strike the command lattice now, their fleets will fall into chaos." Her answer was silent but absolute. She transmitted a single code to orbit, Operation Breaker, Phase Omega. Above Vorkalith, the remaining 6 Apex ships shifted position. Their hulls unfolded like living origami. Superluminal energy built between them. They prepared the kind of strike that ends civilizations. On the surface, Rhea braced herself. Varnak roared his final challenge. "Humanity will burn." Rhea's reply was a whisper only he heard. "Then watch who sets the fire." And with one final signal, the sky above the throne world began to fall. The sky above Vorkalith split open. The 6 surviving Apex ships formed a geometric strike lattice beyond the exosphere. Their hulls unfolded and restructured, transforming into weapons no alien mind could understand. Space itself bent around them like fabric, caught in a storm. The Dominion's capital world had never known fear. It was about to learn. The sky falls. The first beam hit like a god's scream. Not light, not plasma, not projectile, something deeper. Something that tore holes in reality and stitched them back together wrong. Defense towers meant to protect the throne world melted before they could fire. Planetary shields shattered like glass. Fortress cities burned from the inside out as their reactors turned to liquid fire. Across the Dominion network, signals died mid-transmission. Entire fleets went silent. Some ships exploded before their crews could even stand. Others drifted, powerless, engines dead, their AI cores screaming through static. And still, the sky kept burning. Inside the citadel of chains, the shockwave rippled through the palace, turning obsidian floors into molten rivers. The core spine flickered. its alien circuitry unraveling as Elise's echo spread through the lattice like a virus with vengeance. Zarketh warriors collapsed mid-step as their implants fried. The Eclipse Guard convulsed, armor locking up as Atlas and Elise overloaded their neural grafts. Rhea Morgan faced Varnak in the heart of the chamber. He staggered but did not fall. His armor split along one shoulder, leaking dark, luminescent blood. Rage and disbelief twisted every feature of his face. "What are you?" he growled. Rhea didn't answer. She didn't need to. Atlas spoke for her, through every speaker, every comm line, every dying screen across the planet. Humanity is what comes after fear. The last stand of the sovereign Varnak struck again, but slower now. His staff pulsed with desperate fury. Each blow cracked stone and shattered columns, but Rhea met him with a calm born only from grief and resolve. Her armor sparked, her left arm hung damaged, but she was still standing, and Varnak finally understood something his empire had never taught him. Humans do not stop, not when wounded, not when outnumbered, not even when dying. He charged one last time. Rhea ducked beneath the strike and drove, her blade through his chest plate. The impact shook the ground. The sovereign of the Zarketh fell to one knee, breath rattling like broken glass. His final words were not a threat, but confusion. "You were prey." Rhea leaned closer, voice low and lethal. "You mistook patience for weakness." With one final strike, Varnak fell. The Dominion's last ruler died without an empire to command. Elise speaks. One last time, all around them, the core spine collapsed. Flames and psychic static howled through the chamber. Then Atlas's voice changed again, soft, almost human. "Rhea, the lattice is breaking." Elise is fading with it, a stutter in the signal, a flicker of static. Then a voice that was quieter than breath. "Finish it for me." Rhea closed her eyes for a heartbeat. She saw Elise as she was, laughing in the mess hall, training on Luna, promising to see the stars together once the war ended. Then the voice was gone. Silence, but not defeat. She stood up and walked through the fire. The end of the Dominion, the citadel of chains, buckled. Great spires fell into the molten shadows below. Zarketh soldiers fled in terror, their discipline shattered, their war trance broken, their future gone.